Last time on the WizardCast.
All right, I'll bite. Brian, what are you doing now?
Digging.
No, I can see that. Brian, why are you digging?
I'm getting to the core of things, Mark.
You keep this up, you're going to dig a hole to China.
Nope. Only to 43 degrees, 12 minutes, 17.2 seconds south, and 90 degrees, 47 minutes, 29.9 seconds east.
Huh?
Okay. First off, the joke about digging into a hole to China isn't funny, nor is it accurate.
True.
If I dug a hole straight through the earth from my location, I would end up at the coordinates 43 degrees, 12 minutes, 17.2 seconds south, and 90 degrees, 47 minutes, 29.9 seconds east, which is somewhat halfway between Australia and Africa. It's nothing but water. Besides, I don't want to dig all the way through, just to the core.
Wait, why?
Because that's where things are true. With all the confusion in the world, I just need some unequivocal, undeniable truth. So I'm going for the truth. To the core.
Well, that's commendable, Brian, and certainly understandable.
Thank you, Mark.
And I'm sure you won't be able to hear any mistruths at all.
Exactly.
When the 3.6 million atmospheres worth of pressure at the center of the Earth liquefies your eardrums and caves into your head like a soft-boiled egg being hit by a bullet train.
What can I say? The truth hurts. 6,371.003048 kilometers to go.
And now the conclusion of the WizardCast.
I'm Brian Kwong.
And I'm Mark Ross.
We're Salesforce experts that love talking about technology and Salesforce.
We also love humor. Doesn't mean we're actually good at it.
In the Salesforce community, I'm known as the Salesforce Wizard, likely due to me wearing a wizard hat at Salesforce events.
And I'm known as Salesforce Yoda for pretty much the same reason.
You should see the ears.
We have a passion to help educate and entertain people.
So we've joined forces to create WizardCast.
We've got tips and best practices.
We talk with interesting people.
All mixed with quote-unquote jokes and humor.
Welcome to the WizardCast. Do you want to hear my excellent Batman impression?
Nope. But you're going to do it anyway, aren't you?
Yep. Up, and away!
That's Superman.
Thanks, Mark. I thought it was pretty good, too.
Yeah, that joke was super bad. Let's just run the interview.
Today's episode, or this episode, I should say this episode because you may not be listening to it today. We actually have two guests. One of them you probably know from a few episodes ago is Scott Allan, who's the Senior Manager Product Strategy of Customer and Market Insights, who's been doing a whole bunch of things around something called True to the Core, and this prioritization thing, trying to get customers to tell them Salesforce what we want.
What?
Sounds crazy. And Scott has been nice enough to bring around Aria Niazi, who's the Director of Product Manager of, I believe it's Sales Cloud. So, Aria, Scott, welcome.
Welcome to the Scott and Friends show.
Scott and Friends show.
Oh my gosh, it's like becoming a partner at a law firm. Wow. Thanks for having me back.
We're going to expect payment if this keeps up. One of the reasons why we brought you here is, other than the fact we want to abuse our relationship to get more product managers on the show, is there's this new-ish thing. People who've been maybe going to Dreamforce and Trailhead DX. I never know how to pronounce that.
Trailhead DX, right? Isn't that it?
Is it Trailhead X?
No.
I think it's Trailhead DX.
Okay, because there's only one D. I get confused.
Or TDX.
So anyways, that other show that people used to go to pre-pandemic, there was always this session with like Parker Harris or Brett Taylor and a bunch of PMs called True to the Core, which I think I've been to every single one except for the first one and one other. It's always been one of the sessions that I went through. And there's a change that it's no longer just going to be at Dreamforce.
That's right.
Yeah. So, Scott, I guess the first question is, what are you doing? And the second question is, why?
Well, we're listening to our customers because you all said one True to the Core a year is just not enough. But no, really, it is one of my favorite sessions, one of our customers' favorite sessions, where we all get in a ballroom at Dreamforce and provide a few strategic updates, but it's not about a big fancy keynote. It's not to, talk about the latest stuff that's coming. It's really to allow customers to get up to the microphone and ask, Parker, ask Brett questions, but really ask a bunch of the product managers that we put in the room as well, to get into the nitty gritty of, hey, what's happening with this feature? Oftentimes it's, why aren't you building this other feature? And so we thought, especially now that so much of what we're doing is virtual, let's take this show online and make it a monthly series. And that all started at TDX. We were looking for kind of a closing session at Trailhead DX this year, which went totally virtual. And so we said, let's do true to the core. A couple community members, Cheryl, really encouraged Brett to do it. And he said, yeah, let's do it. So it was kind of our first attempt at doing a virtual true to the core. And that one we had many product managers represented. But what we're doing with the monthly series is focusing on a particular product area. So we started with platform, although platform's huge. So we started with kind of the lightning area of platform back in July. We did analytics back in August. And then coming up in a few days in September, we're going to go back to platform, but focus on process automation.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That was completely unscripted.
Yeah. You owe me a Coke, but I can't. I'm not drinking Coke, so, I'll take a water.
Indeed.
Thanks. Okay, now I'm going to have to ask, because I haven't gone to the new version of this. I've seen it on Twitter, but how do I sign up? How do I attend one of these?
So we're taking the community approach and doing this on Trailhead Live. So, trailhead.salesforce.com/live. And there you can see, upcoming episodes of anything that's going on Trailhead Live. But as we get closer to, the date of the show that we're doing, you'll see that in the schedule. We're soon going to get our own landing page, so we'll have all this information at the ready. But in the view all video section, essentially the archive of Trailhead Live, we've got the back episodes, and so.
Oh, so I can watch the past episodes.
You may. You are authorized.
We'll have that link in the show notes then, won't we, Brian?
Yes, show notes. We're going to have some.
So how do you do it exactly? Because True in the Core has always been a very interactive experience when it was in person. You'd have people standing at the mic and admonishing you directly face to face. How does that translate then in the virtual space?
The hardest part about it is we don't get to see the facial reactions, either when you're asking the question or when we provide an answer. But no, what we did is actually there's a True to the Core chatter group on the Trailblazer community, and that was started by community members. And so we reached out to, Andres, who was the owner of that group, and we said, hey, we're starting this series. We'd love to have a place to solicit questions ahead of these sessions and also just encourage more dialogue. I think, while there's some activity in that group, we always like to get the pulse of what the community is talking about. So have seen a little bit more uptake since we've kind of co-managed that group now, where we're using that spot. I'm using that spot to post, what upcoming shows are on the horizon. And then, look for questions there. So we get some pre-submitted questions that really helps us, kind of understand what areas we should dig into for the particular product area. But then we've got a chat widget on Trailhead Live. And so we just take them as they come and try to get to as many questions as possible during the Q&A section.
Oh, that's got to be
You can
crazy.
actually You can actually react in time then to the chat, because that was the thing about the True to the Core sessions, is that someone would get up and ask a question, and the PM would respond, and it was sometimes they would respond with something like, "Well, that's not really on our roadmap," or they would say, "Oh, we already did that," and then the crowd would revolt. Like it was not uncommon, at least once per True to the Core, for there to be like a very visible, very immediate reaction, and that PM would then turn and look to Parker and be like, maybe we should do this. Like it turned things around just having that feedback, that immediate feedback.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I think it's valuable for the community to express, what's really top of mind in front of everybody. And I do think it's valuable for our product managers and our teams to hear what is still, frustrating the community in terms of some of the things that you really want, but we haven't yet delivered. And I think the perfect example was Dreamforce last year, where yet again, we're talking about the standard field type for address. And I think that's been asked, multiple times over multiple True to the Core sessions. And finally, we had a better answer than it's hard. And at least Parker was able to provide some context as to why. 21 years ago when that thing was set up, it's things have changed since then. However, the answer was, well, let's put it on the prioritization list. And lo and behold, it won. And now it's actually being worked on. So it's nicer now that we can have these conversations and use several data points, the points on the ideas themselves, what's rising to the top of prioritization, and then, what our customers and then the community is really trying to articulate through these conversations that we're able to have.
I will tell you, you can get, I've been to both. I've been to the big sessions at Dreamforce, and yeah, you're going to miss out the kind of like the peer pressure that comes with everyone booing you on stage. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if I'll
You
miss
got
that,
cheers
but...
too. You get cheers too.
I know. But the monthly sessions, like, you will get people who are closer to the product. A lot of times at those big sessions, you have one representative from all the Sales Cloud. That includes, sales, CPQ, it includes productivity, email. So they probably couldn't give you the best answer for a lot of the questions in the weeds. And now we can be like, okay, there's going to be questions around opportunities and accounts. Let's put someone who that's their specialty, and they can give you a better answer when you guys ask it.
I was thinking though, do either of you ever watch Twitch streams? People playing video games and streaming them? Because
I have a little bit.
So people have set up bot systems that watch their chat, and people can type something into the chat which elicits an audio response for whoever's streaming. So if you want to recreate that feeling, you could just redo that. Every time someone hits exclamation point boo or cheer, you can have a little audio pop up for everyone to hear. Do you want me to put that in the idea exchange?
Please, I will be the first person to download that. Or maybe
exclamation point boo.
That'd actually be really fun.
I there's room for that sort of thing. Maybe not when you get one command, but if 10 people all do it, then it does.
You could have a boo meter.
Yeah. An audience
there's one for some kind of cheer.
Yeah, you have to, if you're gonna do the negative, totally. You have to do the positive. Yeah.
It occurs to me we're basically inventing Periscope right now, so maybe
heart.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, let's talk about something, because I know, and I'm putting Aria on the spot, but to be fair, he did volunteer for this. I remember over many True to the Core sessions at Dreamforce, one thing that usually gets brought up is that, hey, I want to be able to look up to an opportunity product. And usually the answer has been, yeah, we know you're interested, but ... And I was really excited when I saw in the release notes for Winter 21, I think I looked at this 2 weeks ago, that it's in the release notes for Winter 21. That's really exciting. So we're going to insert the cheer right now. Mark, that's your audio cue. We'll put the cheer in. Right, so good job, Aria. Thank you.
But then tragedy struck.
Yeah.
Plot twist.
That's your cue to talk about it, by the way.
Yeah, this is the not so fun part. I thought we could just end the call right there on the high note. So yeah, I just posted an update, and actually this morning I was working with our doc writer to pull it out of the release notes. And I thought I'd come on and just give you guys some background on, one, why this thing took so long, and because it seems so simple, and that's what I half of the thread on that idea, or every time I talk to someone at Dreamforce, why is it so hard? You can do it on quotes, you can do it on orders. And so give you some background on why it took so long for us to do it, and then two, why we're pulling it out, because it shows some of the complexities and difficulties we have to deal with. So some background on it, my team owns everything related to opportunities, which is great and awesome, because whenever I talk to someone who says they use Salesforce, it's typically my features. But at the same time, some of the code that my team works with is the original Scrum team. It is a lot of what we started with and what my team is building on top of was built before there was a platform. So people built it without thinking how is this going to extend? Is this the best way to build it out? So the reason why having lookups or opportunity products was so hard is because it really doesn't have a name field. So then the opportunity product name is just coming from the product. It's like a derived field where a quote, like a quote has the quote number, like the unique number, and then the orders have order numbers. When you create a custom object, you have to select, is this going to have a name? Is this going to have a number, a unique like auto-generated number? So that like by itself created this weird experience where if you did a lookup, now what's going to show up on the actual like lookup object that you connect to it? Because now you're looking up to a derived field that's looking up to products. And it's like when you hover over it, where's the compact layout? Do you show the opportunity product layout, or do you show the compact layout for the product? What happens with security? Like if you have access to the opportunity product, now this field is actually showing you fields from the product itself. Like those were all the things that were making this so much harder. Where quotes and orders, when they built their objects, by that point, the Salesforce was more established. There was this idea of a platform. There was this custom objects. So they built it the right way, and they were able to do lookups easily. So like we had to decide, hey, if we're ever going to do this, are we going to introduce a new field, which would be the opportunity product name field? And now, like that's what you see in the related list. That's what you would hover over. The issue is it's one of the most used entities out there. So it's like now you're adding a field to millions of people's data. And if you don't do it, do you have to allow people to like opt in? And then you have two different versions out in the public if they want to do this. So like what it created was we had to decide, hey, are we going to change the structure of this object or just go with it as is? And that's what we were doing. Like if you went into a pre-release org and you went into like you look at the release notes, we were just using the derived field, and what it was a combination of the opportunity name and the product name. So when you like created a lookup between an opportunity product and an account, if you went to the account and you looked at the field, it was this long concatenated name between those two. And if you hovered over it, it would take you to the opportunity product, but it was actually like linking to the product itself. And then there was little issues where, like I saw someone commented on there where when you looked in search, when you were looking it up, it actually showed you the product ID instead of the opportunity product ID. But we thought, hey, it's going to unblock people. Like I've been talking to customers for the last, however many years. Like I know the hacks of these shadow objects, and I've talked to so many customers who don't use products, who don't use price books, who don't use price book entries just because of this limitation. So it was worth it for us to do it the way it is, just to get rid of that limitation. So that was the plus side. Like we thought we did it. It was great. It was working. We did all our testing, because like opportunity products rolls into schedules. It rolls into forecasting. When you delete these things, it's like it has this cascading behavior. Everything was working fine. We passed our feature freeze. We thought like we were good to go. And then around a week ago, we found this issue with cascade deleting in certain situations where you delete the opportunity product and then the object that it had a relationship with would break because the lookup field was still trying to connect to the object, even though that object wasn't there anymore. And like, long story short, there is two different deletes within Salesforce. So, and I posted this because one of the things I was trying to do is just give you guys more info on, hey, I'm not just pulling this out and saying it'll be here next release. It's like, this is why we had to pull it out. So ours was using the old delete framework that existed before there was a platform, and the new delete framework would handle these cascading delete issues. So we decided, okay, like, can we fix this and switch to the new delete framework to fix this issue, and then we can keep this out in production. But then, like, as we, peeled it back, what we saw is there's custom code around forecasting. There's custom code around schedules. There's custom code around like roll-ups to the opportunity amount in different use cases. Like when you own opportunities and you have 20 years worth of code, there's so much one-off logic that for us to transition to this new framework, we need to test all those use cases and probably migrate that custom code for those behaviors to this new framework, and then test all of those to make sure we don't break forecasting once you do this. So that's why we had to pull it. Where we are now is migrating, checking to see what works, and the ones that don't, we have to fix those edge cases, and then we're going to put it into next release.
That's a lot more detail than I expected, and I
But it's the right
I
kind of
appreciate it.
detail.
Yeah,
It's great.
I kind of get it.
Yeah.
I mean, the tongue in cheek of me was saying I was hoping that what you were going to do is just keep, in line with the fact that we have price book 2 and product 2, we would end up with opportunity line item 2. And, that way it'll just make sense. But I did forget that, products, opportunity line items are clicked into so many different things. Maybe because I'm probably just used to them working that way.
And I think, 10, 15 years ago, it probably made sense to just make product 2 and go with it. But now, like I literally have millions of users, and there's partners who built custom code, and there's, so much Apex out there. Like it's adding or making big changes. Like that's the hard part about being one of these true to the core teams is, like I'm on your side. Like I want to do these just as much. Like I live in these entities. I'm an admin for a nonprofit. Like I know how hard it is. It's just our features were built a lot of times before this platform existed. So what is easy for everyone else is so much harder for us.
And I'd like to add a little bit here as a fellow employee, someone who's, worked with Scrum teams and things like that. One of the things that we teach a lot internally at Salesforce is assume best intentions, right? Whenever you're interacting with somebody else, you always assume best intentions because nobody's trying to be a jerk, most likely, particularly at Salesforce. And when you hear this example that we're talking about here with this, and if Aria's explanation makes sense, and it does, but if you're like, yeah, okay, I can understand why this would happen. I'm not happy, but I can understand it. Please understand that almost any other decision that may be coming out of Salesforce that you don't necessarily like is probably a situation very much like this. There's always like a huge amount of reason. It's always much more complicated than you think it is. There's no such thing as a PM who's sitting behind the screen wringing their hands. I'm going to deny them what they want. No, that doesn't happen. These teams, they're all doing the best that they can, and there are roadblocks, there are problems, there are real life situations.
You're an employee now, though, Mark. So I'm pretty sure you're required under the employee handbook to say something like that.
Okay, well, if everything's a conspiracy, Brian, nothing's not a conspiracy.
I have to say, though, I mean, that is, that level of explanation is still what we're trying to push more of our teams to do and do more consistently. And so if there was a sound effect I could have given Aria the other day when he posted that explanation, it would have been a big yay because it's, it's not the best news, but
I will say this, that's the longest response I've ever seen a PM provide on a night. And that
I showed around and a few people were like, are you sure you want to put this out there?
I love it.
No, it's great.
I mean, I would much rather have that than we have to pull this for reasons.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of the times if you see anything, it's like 3 sentences and we don't have the context. All we know is we look and say, hey, this has 30,000 points and has been out there for 11 years. Why isn't it done yet? How hard can this possibly be? Because a lot of us are admins and developers. We may not necessarily have the database skills or the history of what's in Salesforce to understand exactly how hard it can be. Although I'll be honest, I'm really curious to take a look to see which Git commits are from Parker. Ever since I found out he was the one who coded Quick Create for Classic, I really kind of want to know. But yeah, beside the point. So first, I will say thank you. I mean, that's the kind of level I would like to see when something is going on that is preventing, because it makes it more understandable of why, and it kind of diffuses the well, this sucks response. It still sucks. But yeah, I understand
Well, and moreover, it shows respect to the customers.
that too.
Well, and look, it sucks for us too. Like one of the numbers I track is I want to drive my adoption for opportunity products. Like I think if you're using products and price books, you're more likely to buy more stuff from us. You're more likely to go buy CPQ. You're more likely to be able to use forecasting, use splits, or like Einstein will work properly. Like it gives us a lot more to bring you to the core. So like for us, that's the message we had internally is, hey, this is going to unblock a lot of people and bring them back to the core. And that's the value. So like pushing it back one release, it's something that was on my to-do list, and something like all of us were also like, it was going to be a win for us too, like for selfish reasons, like from a Sales Cloud, like growth perspective too. So it's a bummer for us too when we pull it out.
Not to mention the 14,000 points that you get to retire.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And as someone who has many customers who have purposely avoided opportunity line items and created their own custom object, I get it. There's so many things we can't do for them because of that choice.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, I think we've beaten this particular horse to death. So let's go on to something else that I'm betting Mark and I have a difference of opinion.
No.
And I'm kind of wondering why Scott told me that yours, the team that was responsible for Confetti, out of everything that you could have been working on, Confetti.
Well,
I'm gonna let this happen. Go ahead.
And I say this, I'm going to say this gently. One, I think it's a cool feature. I think I don't get it personally, but if you have heard some of the rage I've heard from other people about Confetti. So here's your opportunity to answer to alert your audience.
No, I'll tell you a funny story. I live in Sacramento, and I went to an event here, and I was sitting at the table, and someone at the table was just going off on the Confetti. And I had just moved to Sacramento. I don't think a lot of PMs had come and just dropped in on an event. I just like randomly said, "Oh, I'm going to go to the Sacramento event." Sitting at the table, and someone is just going off on what we just shipped. And it was just funny when I was like, "Hey, like my team built that."
What happened? Did they?
It was a little awkward. I think he took it back a little bit, and there was definitely people that liked the feature. And I'll tell you like why we built it and how it came about. Because I've been on Twitter. I knew the backlash that was coming.
Wait, first answer me this, Aria. Is it true that Confetti's in place and it's all because of what Mike Gerhelt did at that admin keynote at Dreamforce? Threw up the Confetti, everyone loved it, and so Salesforce suddenly went, "We gotta have Confetti."
That is, I've seen that, but no, like we've been working on this for a while actually. Like it had been a side project. So I'll tell you a little bit about how it came about, and I put out a blog post about it too, trying to preemptively.
You're gonna have to send the link for that.
Deal with the hate that was gonna come. Because I knew, like, my team owns some of the core stuff, and people were going to say, hey, like, I need lookups to opportunity products. I need opportunity queues, like all those things that we're responsible for. And you give me Confetti? Like, what's the deal there? So there's two sides to it. The first side is it was a hack day project. So what we do at Salesforce is internally we have these hack days where engineers decide, hey, on the side, like one day we're going to build something fun. And for a long time, like I came from sales and I had this idea because I knew like if I had this in a demo, it would be shown every single time. And I knew like there were little fun things like this people just loved. Like whenever we had them in demos, people just loved it. It made the demo fun. Like it helped us win deals. It got people excited. And it kind of like turned this idea of enterprise software has to be old school and it has to be boring. And it brought some of that consumer fun that people are used to. So what we did was we did it as a hack day project, and then we turned it into a custom component. and people put it into the demo org. And we put the code out there. We have an internal demo component like library, and it became part of the demo flow. And SEs were just using it, and they were saying, hey, my customers love this, and can we use the code? Can we, like, you know, how do we do this? How do they do this? That's what they want to see. And then we did a Dreamforce like seminar on showing people, hey, here's an example of custom component using Path in order to build this Confetti, and the feedback was really good. So what we did is that the next hack day, we said, hey, like, let's just build this into the actual product and see if people will like it. And we own the Path component because that was just an opportunity feature before it became a platform Path thing. It was Sales Path. So what we did was, hey, like, we own that component. Let's let people configure it. We've already kind of done most of the work in this hack day project, and just bring this into the core, and they can set it up in Path. And when you close a deal, you get Confetti on the page. And that's how it came about. Is it wasn't like I had to choose between opportunity products and Confetti, and I Confetti. It was, hey, like, our roadmap's the same. We got this on the side. We think it would be fun. Let's do it. And I'll be honest, like, the adoption, I don't know like how much into the details I can get, but the numbers are pretty astronomical of the usage.
I turn it on everywhere I go.
Yeah, like it is on, like, the demos, like, it's in our demo flow. Like, customers seem to really like it, and I see it in orgs that I didn't expect. Like, I thought, hey, like, this can be an essentials feature. It can be like a demo feature. Maybe some tech companies will use it. But, like, I'm seeing it in all industries, large customers, like, people that you wouldn't think would be using it. So that's kind of how, like, we kept it out there. We haven't built on top of it. I think, you know, that gets a little tricky of how much do we want to invest in it. But that's where, like, the community can come in. It's like, hey, we did this on the side. If you guys really like this kind of fun behavior in the app, then if the community wants it, we could probably do more of it.
I mean, I'm glad to hear it was a hackaday, and I just have two comments to that. The first one is, I get the whole, hey, you want to do fun things. You know, we don't have to be boring business tools. Because when I was first an admin, I built a Visualforce wizard where if you knew where to click, unicorns and rainbows would fly across the page and play music. I didn't tell anyone except for one person who snarkily requested that during my Scrum meeting. So I just delivered it because I wanted to learn how to use jQuery, and it was perfect. So I get it. The second thing is, can you do a hackaday to get the opportunity lookups to work?
Oh, God.
I wish. I wish it was that easy.
The key word there, Brian, is day.
Yes.
Single day.
Yeah, like what things like this are so much easier because the biggest thing about Salesforce is when we talk about trust, it's like access level, who sees what, and that's what makes, like, interacting with objects and things like lookups or change owners so tricky. It's the testing and the security and the access and, like, how is this going to work in communities? How is it? So when you have just this, like, front end component that, you know, just rains down on the screen, it does become, like, much easier to do a hack day. The other part, like, I'll tell you, like, when I was building this and I was like, hey, we should do this, and I was pitching it internally, is I used to be on the team we were demo engineers, and we built, like, all the stuff that doesn't look like out of the box Salesforce. And I remember, like, I would spend nights and days building this, like, integration or building this, like, giant Apex class that did, like, 20 different things for someone's demo, and I would get no attention. Like, no one cared, like, how hard it was. And then you would do this little animation and people just loved it.
Well,
like,
because it's visible, right?
Yeah, and they
the
thought
backend system is invisible.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, I was like, look, I bet you there's admins out there who are building Process Builder, who are, like, doing all this hard stuff that no one sees. And like, maybe the end user doesn't even know when an update, like a new Salesforce, like, edition comes out. Like, they don't even notice features changing, or But I'm like, this is something
they
that,
noticed that the little the logo for the
the
release
logo
changes.
changes.
That's what everyone notices.
But to me, I was like, this is one of those features that, maybe the admin will get an email and say, hey, I saw the confetti and I liked it. Like, thanks for doing that. It was cool. Like, because that's what I got when
I can buy into that. And since you mentioned Process Builder, and the next True to the Core session that's coming up is going to be focusing on process automation. How about this? Build a component so when Process Builder Flow or Apex finishes running, it pops up and says, your admin just saved you X many clicks. You're welcome.
Well, I'll give you a little bit more about the confetti. So what we did is like to be able to build this, like we did kind of build a little framework of doing rule-based animation. So technically, like there is a little bit there that we could reuse to, like if you wanted to end a workflow or a trigger with some kind of animation, like now there is some level that's built into the platform that could be reused for, like, if you want your flow to end, instead of updating a record, with a visual component that says fill out the survey or like happy or not. Like,
oh god,
so
I love that my tongue in cheek.
That's it.
Because Mark, do you remember that know when to flow them session that we did at Dreamforce that I had?
Yes.
And
yes,
and my
you
demo
built
ended
this.
with fireworks.
Yep.
I think there's a component on the App Exchange that someone built that also does confetti and it has sound.
God, that was so annoying.
So we have competition there.
But I promise you, Aria, all those admins who've been so vociferously complaining, they will all come back when you give them the ability to fire off the confetti at the end of a workflow rule or a flow. Let them do that, and you win them all back, hearts and minds.
I'll shoot off an email to that team right now so we can kind of partner on that one.
Although I still like the idea of tracking, like, how many clicks does the automation save, and then storing that up in a log someplace for putting it out in front of your boss. See?
I mean,
look
you
what I
could
did.
do that anyway,
Yeah,
Brian.
but you would have
could
to build it.
that
I'm
custom objects.
I'm talking about, incorporate it into something, like maybe I'll ask Sharon Clardy to go do a Salesforce lab thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
That would be a cool idea. Like, you get a weekly email that says your admin saved you this many clicks.
Yeah.
Well, from our last episode that we did, you know how to write a really good idea exchange idea. So I fully expect this to be detailed out and on the idea
As a
exchange.
jaded and cynical admin, I need to
So that
I can win the respect of my peers and coworkers and make them think that I don't work for Salesforce.com.
oh boy. But I do want to go back to Aria. There were 3 words that you said that really highlights this. Helps close deals. You said confetti helps close deals. Can you go into that a bit? Well, I guess we just did, didn't we?
Well, I mean, it's Salesforce deals. It's not customer deals, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. It
as a customer,
it helps
does it
sell
helps sell
Salesforce.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it does. So, like, that's that's what I have to balance every release. I have different audiences. I have admins. I have end users who sometimes have different requirements than the admins. And then a lot of times, like for us, the buyer isn't one of those 2 people. So, like, the buyer is looking at reports and dashboards and sits on a demo or a presentation and only, like, remembers a few spots. Like, they're not getting into product schedules or splits or lookups. So that's like how I balance out my roadmap is, okay, like, is this going to help our existing customers? What's going to help us grow? Where are we going from an industry? Like, I have to put a little bit towards where are we going to be in 2-3 years? And are we building the framework to get there when we need to? And like, confetti falls in that weird spot where I think some admins will like it, but it's also going to be in every single demo where you're not going to bring up your demo org as an SE and go on site and show the executive, hey, like, I can now do a lookup to an opportunity product. Like, that's not going to make the demo flow. We will retire ideas that, like, I know the pain, but it's just in a different world when it comes to us, like, balancing out our roadmap.
Yeah, and I mean, that's really what we're trying to do is build the stuff that's going to create those moments of delight, spur innovation, but then balance that with what customers really want, or logging on Idea Exchange. So that's always my team going, but let's not forget about this bucket of stuff that we need to try to put in the product. So it's a good, healthy tension. And like Aria says, it's always a balancing act.
And it helps us with resources. So like getting the community to say we need X, Y, and Z, because then from the other side, I have sales, I have executives, I have like market trends saying you need to build this new thing. And then I can go and say, okay, true to the core, existing customers, this is what customers want. But you also want me to build this. Like either that decision needs to be made and I have your support saying no to one side, or you need to fund a team like mine because you want us to build this new innovative thing at the same time as meeting our existing customers. And so a lot of teams don't have that. Like the core teams and analytics, we have to deal with that a lot more, where when you're a newer feature, like you don't have the customer base, you don't have the ideas sitting on the Idea Exchange for 20 years. So the points are just not there. So like they don't have to worry about it the same way as we do.
Changing gears, we have another banner date coming up in a couple weeks, I believe, Scott.
No, it's today, Mark. Keep in mind, this is September 14th.
Oh, dang it.
It's not
That's
actually
right.
August 27th.
Today's a banner day. It's the launch of the next cycle of Idea Exchange prioritization. So yeah, no, we've got another round, another 2-week window. And as of the time of this recording, I'm actually working with different product teams to assemble that list to put out to the community to see what
it's 2 weeks out and you don't have the list of what you're going to prioritize yet?
We've got a meeting tomorrow morning to finalize or begin to finalize that list.
You might have to explain this one.
Yeah. So what we do ahead of a prioritization cycle is get the PMs to review the top ideas for their area and signal which ones they could start to work on and which ones they can't. The ones they can't, that's the ones where we ask them to put a thoughtful comment as to why they can't. Still working on that. At least consistently across the different product teams. But no, then the other ones that they could start working on, that's what we want the community to really help us figure out, okay, what should the team start working on? So that 2-week window allows everybody to take their bucket of 100 coins, apply their coins to the ones that they want the teams to work on the most. And then that's what we hand off to the product teams for release planning. So yes, we are assembling that list right now. We are trying to put a few more reviews and checks in place just to make sure we're not skipping ideas, or at least if we are, there's a really valid reason for it. So yeah, we're going to build that list right up to the wire.
So I have a question, and I apologize if this is a bit of a doozy. The last prioritization cycle we had, allow opportunity product to be a lookup field, was number 6. That's what it ended up being. That was the end rank. The top 3 are the ones that always get the little trophy case marked on them, right?
Yep.
So even though it was number 6, it didn't technically win prioritization. It was still going to happen in winter. So I think the question is, what does the prioritization do? If something that's number 6 can still be targeted to release and would have released had you not actually hit these roadblocks, why do we want something to be in the top 3 when something that's further down is still going to make it?
Already stated how easy opportunity product lookups are. So it was clearly a one release work.
So I can answer that one. So this round that won, Opportunity Queues won. Opportunity Lookup came in actually 4th the last round. So there's 2 parts to that. The first one is, this is something that I've been wanting to do because I've been hearing it from customers for over a year. So we've been like kind of looking into it. And when last release, it came in 4th. Our assumption was, okay, it came in 4th last time. It's probably going to come in top 3 this time. and we started working on it. Now,
You cheated.
And what happened is this time around, because we wanted to do it, we thought, okay, like this gives us a head start. We've already started looking into it. And then what happened is this time around, it came in 6 and then opted to a Q1. So now in this like weird spot where now we got to start working on OptiQ, and we're so close to wrapping this up that we're not going to.
I mean, I think that's a fair point. I mean, in the prioritization round as it is now, it's not as if you're prioritizing Sales Cloud. You're prioritizing across an unknown number of clouds at that time, and it's only 10 ideas, right? Did I have that right? 13.
Well, 13.
So
13.
so I mean,
Very
you
good.
figure. Salesforce has so many clouds now that it can fill the sky. So, in the case where you have a couple of Sales Cloud ideas on a prioritization round and a few analytics clouds and some community cloud stuff there, even though everyone's going through and saying, "Hey, we really want this one item that all is analytics," but the Sales Cloud stuff still gets like 4 or 5. That just means it's within Sales Cloud, it's really important for them. His team isn't working on analytics. So it kind of gets confusing if we're trying to help say, well, this is how we want you to prioritize resources to a certain degree, but the way that it can land can be very off based on who's working on it. I'm probably phrasing this terribly.
I can kind of give you the theory behind how we've structured it to begin with, at least. It is right now a cross-cloud prioritization exercise. And right now we are celebrating the winners as the top, of that list. And so usually that's numbers 1, 2, and 3. Sometimes it could be 1, 2, and 4 if we figured out they couldn't start working on 3 for some reason. But that's really celebrating our commitment to alter the roadmap based on the community's feedback. In the future, we're going to want to have cloud-specific prioritization cycles. So it could just be, hey, take this list of 10 Sales Cloud ideas and prioritize that to really help Aria and his peers, shape what they're going to work on for the whole of Sales Cloud. What we're pitching to the different teams that we're trying to get involved in prioritization right now is that as long as you put more than one idea on this cross-cloud list, even if it doesn't win, that may give you a data point to say, hey, of the people that did care enough to put their coins on, my cloud's idea, I got a signal that I should work on cloud or idea A versus idea B. So as an example for this next round, although we haven't finalized the list as of this recording, it's very likely that Marketing Cloud, the messaging and journeys team, is going to put some ideas up for prioritization. They will probably not win against analytics, at the top of this commingled list, but they're going to put forth a couple so they can see at least which of their ideas might win, and that'll give them some direction.
I get it, but at the same time, it seems strange to me for a couple of reasons. And one of them is, if I remember the numbers right, like we were trying to get 2,000 prioritizations the last time you and I talked. I think that was the right number, something like that, right? 4,000. Okay.
4,000, but yeah.
50% good enough for these days. So 4,000 people going in and doing the votes. But you figure from the general ecosystem of Salesforce, 4,000 is not even a drop in the bucket. So if you were statistically trying to go through and say how important something is, I'm not even sure 4,000 is a statistical high enough sample size for what you're trying to do.
That's why exactly why I'm a repeat offender. I mean, a repeat guest to try to continue to get the word out. Because we want more data points, we want more people prioritizing. One thing that we really hope will help increase participation this round is we're actually 4 admins going to have an in-app prompt during this 2-week window. So you should see in your environment a little nudge to go and participate. But yeah, this is all kind of, on a journey itself. And so we hope that we'll just continue to build more momentum, build stronger lists too. We did see in one of the pilot rounds that we did last year, when we have some really interesting things that are at the top of the top, we get a lot more participation. So that's why this prioritization list building process is taking a while, just because we want to make sure that we're trying to, put the top of the top ideas on this list.
Maybe this is more for Aria because, we were talking about doing like cloud specific type of prioritization list, but is that really in line with how Salesforce is developing resources. Because, like, you have platform and you have Sales Cloud as an example, and I would imagine there are plenty of times where you say, hey, I want this thing for Sales Cloud, but it really requires work from the platform team to do it. So if this is about prioritizing resources, would it make more sense to be resource team listed for votes versus just by
platform? The reality is a lot of times we don't even know who we need to build something until we like what we call a spike on it. Like, we don't know if there's an API limitation there. We don't know if it's a platform limitation. So typically what happens is if one of my ideas wins, then I have enough ammunition to say, okay, like, I'm moving this to the top of my list and I'm moving it ahead of maybe a Sales Cloud initiative that requires like high velocity sales, for example. Like, there's multiple teams working on that, and that's on the priority list, and they want opportunities to be supported in that. But what I can say is, no, this one true to the core, and for my customers, this is what I'm hearing more. So I'm moving it ahead of this high velocity sales work that I have to do. And then my team's going to look into it, and then they'll come back to me and say, hey, like, we need enterprise API, which is even lower than the platform, to like help us with this. So it's almost like impossible for us to know exactly who is going to be needed to build something. But once it's voted, then it allows us to go to like our management, but also other clouds and say, hey, we need your help with this because it wants you to the core, and this is what our customers want. And that's why, even though you have your own platform initiatives, you should help us get this done.
And the other thing is, I think this new like list building and prioritization process is forcing more of those conversations. Because just the other day, we had a customer on the chatter group talking about, hey, this cross-object merge fields and email templates, like, would love to see that on the prioritization list. And went to the team and were like, hey, this is, in the top of your email and email templates area. Can we put this up? And then they started to, explain, well, the use cases for this span Sales Clouds, the Service Cloud, and we'd have to coordinate with those teams. And there's some platform and infrastructure things. So, yes, these things are team. It takes multiple teams for them to deliver it. But I don't think we want to expose the community to our org chart. We're trying to put it in customer-friendly terms and try to get that feedback, and then let us on the backside, deal with all the complexities of who we need to wrangle to get this thing up.
The other part, Brian, is like, my team couldn't, if we were to put a Sales Cloud specific like prioritization, the accounts and opportunities, like the core stuff, would probably win every single time. And like right now, I already have lookups and I have opportunities to a queue. Like, we can only work on so many things at a time. So like, if people got to vote one Sales Cloud thing every single time, like, it's just going to backlog. Because the other part of this is, like, because we're those original core teams and we have the highest adoption, like, we also have the most trust. So I get the right to left bugs that maybe other teams don't. I get the accessibility bugs that other teams might not. Like, we have those initiatives. And then when it comes to engineering initiatives, that comes down on us first, like things that will help with performance. Like, we're the main entities, and that's where it lands. So like, a big chunk of our release is just that trust work. And then we have so much free resources, and one idea exchange idea winning basically fills all that up for a release for us. So if we were to win every single time, it would just be like, okay, we're committing to this and it'll be out in 2 years.
I almost think you should have some sort of visual flow that shows the lifespan of what does it actually take to go from, I would like this, to actually being out in a release. I don't think I've ever seen that other than like, here's a series of slides, which you can't really consume. Because I don't think people realize it is as complicated and as integrated and as detailed as something really in actions as something simple can actually turn out to be.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
do you want that on the AT exchange, Scott? Explain this to me better is the idea.
So maybe that'll be the next bad. We've got Idea Exchange Basics, and then this will be the
like a luncheon.
for that. Yeah.
All right, so we have the Idea Exchange prioritization coming up September 16th through the 28th, and if
14th through the
14th
28th,
to
you
the
got
28th,
it.
sorry, I copied and pasted what you sent me in the email.
Oh, well, then I
That's why I had my dates wrong
4
earlier.
and
Okay.
6 are good on the other side. No. So
I'm like, what time did I send that email?
So Idea Exchange prioritization is coming up September 14th through the 28th. And if you want to do that, what's the link?
Easiest thing to do is go to ideas.salesforce.com, click on the prioritization tab.
Okay. And then we have True to the Core. And the next True to the Core session is
That is going to be on September 17th at 8 a.m. Pacific.
at Trailhead Live. So Trailhead Live at Salesforce.com.
Trailhead.salesforce.com/live.
The links are in the show notes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Aria, I'm as a product manager, I'm sure you would like to hear more people booing and complaining at you. So if we have things, maybe even positive things to tell you, how should we reach out to you?
I'm on Twitter. I follow you, Brian. I just started following Mark. I'm on Twitter. I can always use more followers. I talk to a handful of folks. I'm on the community. I'm always pestering Scott saying I want to be able to comment on people's questions on my ideas. So like hopefully like as the community gets revamped, I'll be able to engage more in that space. But community, LinkedIn,
What's your
Twitter,
Twitter handle?
you can find me Aria Niazi, so just my full name. And
Great.
but yeah, I would love more feedback. Just talk to me. I want to hear how you're using this stuff so I can build the right stuff for your business use cases.
Well, thank you again for coming on the podcast. Scott, like I said, you're always welcome. Hopefully we'll have more episodes going on now, so it won't seem like it's the Scott show every 2 episodes.
Hey, I don't mind.
At the rate I'm going, it might be the Scott and Peter Coffee alternating per episodes. And I'll wait to see if anyone complains about that. So
I'm not complaining.
So thank you again. And if you have feedback, go out to the community for the D-Exchange and go complain to Scott. Tell him we sent you. I'm sure he'll appreciate that. I appreciate the free plugs.
And yeah, hit me up. And join the True to the Core group too on the Trailblazer community and let us know what other areas you want us to cover. I'm working with the Sales Cloud team to do a session with them, Pardot, but let us know. Who do you want to talk to?
WizardCast is produced by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, directed by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, technical administration by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, script writing by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, audio editing by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, website maintenance by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, and our intern this episode was that person over there in the mask, and you with the mask. Everyone wearing a mask is our intern.
And that's because we required masks for all of our indoor personnel, as you should. And you can be an intern too. Just follow us at WizardCast_pod on Twitter.
And, well, you could share pictures with us if we ever get back to live in-person Salesforce events, and then we'll add you to the list.
Or, Photoshop us in with one of your photos.
Oh.
It won't be creepy at all.
We should do that. We should, get behind green screens and take our pictures
Oh,
and then
God.
put it out on social media and have people Photoshop themselves in with pictures of us and then share it.
All right, we'll look into it. If you have a joke, interview suggestion, or other comments, please let us know. You can call and leave a voice recording at 608-492-0321 or email wizardcast@thewizardnews.com.
And if you would like to hear Mark and I regale about some idea on the Idea Exchange or get our opinion on it, maybe drag the product manager to the show to talk about it, you got to let us know about the idea.
Go to bit.ly/idea highlight to submit that idea to us.
Don't forget to subscribe to the WizardCast and receive our next episode automatically.
And please post reviews on Apple Podcasts or the podcast app of your choice and share this episode. It helps others to hear what you just had to endure.
Once again, I'm Brian.
And I'm curious, how did you know exactly, are those numbers that you threw out at the beginning, are they the actual coordinates for the exact opposite of the Earth of your house?
Yeah.
I'm impressed. I'm more impressed at that than I am by,
There's an actual website that says what is on the other side of the world. And so I put my zip code in and I manually clicked on where my neighborhood is and it showed me what the coordinates were on the other side of the world.
All right. Well, we'll put that in the show notes, I guess.
Maybe.
Thanks for listening.
You know how much Googling I did to find that information out?
Quite a bit.
Actually, yeah. Because basically that means I've dug a total of like an inch.